Hi everyone, my name is Annie, and as a part of Plants to Plate, I'm going to take you on a tour of the farm at Queen's Botanical Garden. This farm is 1 acre in size, but today we're just looking at the 18 or so demonstrational educational beds.
The farm is operated by our farm manager and interns. Our produce is harvested and donated weekly to different groups around Queens. Here we can see the fennel growing, and on top of it is drip tape irrigation, which is a more efficient way of delivering water to the soil. It's an alternative to a sprinkler system. We'll get started in the herb beds. First, we're looking at lemongrass, which is extremely fragrant, and the leaves are used for tea, but people also use the roots and the stems to cook with. This is sage, which is another fragrant herb, and like most of the other herbs here, it's a perennial plant, which means that it comes back every year. This leaf is called Nasturtium. Most people eat it raw, and it tends to be spicy. You can also eat the flower, which is spicy and sometimes sweet. These are chives that are part of the onion and allium family, and this is its flower, which the pollinators love. Tiny pollinators also love the flower of the thyme plant, which is what we're looking at here, and you might be able to see a few insects buzzing around. This is the flower of the spearmint plant, which is one of the more common varieties of mint. And this is its leaf. This is another variety of mint called mountain mint. Here we have collard greens, which are covered by an insect repellent net because they are susceptible to being eaten by a cabbage worm. These dark leafy greens are great to fry up or to steam. This is Italian basil, and it's not a perennial. You have to plant it every year, and it's extremely fragrant. As you can see, I was wafting the smell. There's also parsley planted in between here, which is commonly mistaken for cilantro. As we move along, we see tomato plants, which are trellised or tied up. And here's a tomato flower, which is the first stage in the fruiting process. And then it becomes a tiny fruit, as you can see, directly from that flower. And finally it starts to grow bigger, and then it will ripen and turn either yellow or red. The sweet and spicy Hakurei turnips have been planted here, and you'll see these 3 rows of white strings. They're to delineate where seeds have been placed before the plant sprouts. Here we can see that the Cotyledon, the first set of leaves, have already begun to grow. Just like those collard greens, kale here also needs to be protected by certain insects. And then sometimes you do get a hole in the netting, which isn't ideal. We have red Russian kale in front of us, and Tuscan lacinato or dinosaur kale, which is named after the scaly texture in its leaves. These are mustard greens, which most people eat raw to complement a salad. And though we eat the greens, we also use their seeds to make mustard that you'd put on a hot dog. We do have a whole bed of strawberries, though they're not fruiting right now, but there's one group of flowers, and after the flower comes the fruit, as we can see here. And it will take about 4 to 6 weeks for that fruit to fully ripen. Daikon radishes and beans. Just like with the tomato and the strawberry, we first see the flower, and then from that the fruit will appear, which is our bean. This one here is a bit too small to harvest. It needs to get a little bit bigger. At the end of the farm, we have raspberries growing, which are ripening right now. They're ready to pick once they're super dark red, and at that point they're really sweet. You can see that a compostable paper mulch is being used here to aid in preventing weed growth, and this is a common practice in organic agriculture. Often, instead of spraying toxic chemicals to eliminate weeds and pests, farmers will use natural mulches as well as add compost back into the soil. I just showed you some glimpses of the blackberry bush as well, which is next to those raspberries. And you'll also see as we walk along that there are many flowers planted which attract helpful pollinators, which are essential in helping plants establish their delicious fruits. And from those fruit come the seed, which helps to restart the growth cycle. Zucchini and squash belong to the cucurbit family, along with cucumbers, and their leaves are really spiky, which is a natural adaptation. Here is the Poblano pepper plant, which won't be around for too much longer as it's now the end of summer. This is its flower. And here is the fruit, or the pepper. Usually you harvest it when it's about this size. And as the summer winds down, our farmers will plant cover crops, which nurture helpful microorganisms in the soil, which help certain nutrients become bioavailable to this clover and future plants. It's another common practice used in organic farming, where the focus is on building healthy and resilient soils. To wrap up this farm tour, we'll leave you with the fig tree. Right now there's an abundance of fig fruits which are ripening, and they should be ready by the end of September into October. Now let's get started on the recipes using herbs from these garden beds and vegetables from the nearby Flushing Farmers Market.